Hello, fellow book readers. My name is John, and today I want to do a tier list where I rank the last books in every series that I've read. A couple months ago, I did a first book in a series tier list, and I'll link that down below, where I went over 33 different first books in a series that I've read. Today I want to do a last book in a series that I've read, and I have read a few different series since I've did that first book in a series tier list. I'm up to like 40 or so different fantasy series now, but there's only going to be 26 books on this list because I'm not doing series that I haven't finished yet or series that haven't had the last book come out yet, with the exception of one series, and that is J.R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire, just because who knows if Winds of Winter is ever coming out or not. So I think it's fair at this point to rank A Dance with Dragons as the last book in the series, even though it's not really the last book in the series, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to rank these last books in different series and sub-series. Some of these are sub-series, not just, overall series. As always, there will be spoilers when I tier rank these. But before we begin, let's talk about our different tiers. And I did this in my other video. I set up my tiers how I do my star rankings. So the top tier, the S tier, is the perfect tier, the perfect books. These are the books that I don't really think have any flaws. They're among my favorite books of all time. I consider them 5-star books. So that's the perfect tier, which will be right here. The next up is the great tier. These books are great. Some of them are near perfect. These are books I would reread any day of the week. I love them. There's maybe one or two things that keep it from being perfect, in my opinion, but I still love these books, and I give them 4 or 4.5 stars, all of these books. And the next tier down is good. These are still books. I enjoyed these books. I enjoyed my time reading these books. I'm happy I read them. But there's a couple things that, really bothered me in some of these, or perhaps they didn't peak as high as a great book. They're not great, and these are books that I aren't often going to go and reread, but I did enjoy my time here, and I do think they are good books. Some of them are even very good, and the very good ones I would reread, but not as often as rereading the great books, in my opinion. And then the next tier down below that is the just okay tier, and these are, for the most part, these books really weren't for me, or maybe the end just fell really, really flat, and it soured my experience in the book, or there's just equally as much wrong with the book for me as there are as right for the book as me. So yeah, these are the 2-star books. They're just okay. I didn't hate my time here, but I didn't like my time here either. They're just fine. And then the last tier, obviously the 1-star book. These are the books where I hated reading. I hated my time there entirely. Okay, so the first book we're going to start with is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. This is the final Harry Potter book. I think it's a great conclusion to the series. I don't think it's perfect. There are parts of it where it's like I want it to be just in Hogwarts a little bit more. It is the first book where that doesn't take place in Hogwarts. They go on an adventure, and that was refreshing for a while. And eventually they do get back to Hogwarts, but I just wish there was maybe just a tiny more bit of Hogwarts in there. But I really love this book, and I'm not here to complain about it. I think it's great. I think the end of this series is perfection. I think there is some needless death in here that didn't really land the way that the author intended it to. But I really did love the end of this book. The duel with Harry and Voldemort, and the twist with sort of how Harry stayed alive is really great. And, you got the Snape reveal here. You got them sneaking into the Ministry, them sneaking into Gringotts, the Regulus Black reveal. There's just so many good things in this book. Yeah, nothing here I hated. It's a great book. It's in the great list for sure. Okay, and then next up we got Return of the King, and this is going to be controversial, but I love the Minas Tirith section of this book, the first part, the book 1 of Return of the King, because it's split into 2 books. I think the book 1 is a 5-star read. I think the second book with Frodo and Sam is just a 3-star read. Listen, the scene at Mount Doom is perfect, where Frodo and Gollum fight over the ring, and it falls into the volcano, and Sam carrying Frodo, perfect, and Sam discovering Frodo in, I forget the name of the place, when he thought Frodo was dead after his fight with Shelob. But part of that part really drags. From them leaving the tower I think it's Stirthungol to Mount Doom. That part really drags for me personally, just because Tolkien throws like a bunch of fake outs at you, like, oh, they're not going to make it to Mount Doom. And it's like, no, like, I never bought a single one of those fake outs. And maybe it's because I saw the movie first, but I don't think that's really it. I think it's just, I don't think those fake outs were really executed very well. Everybody knew Frodo was going to reach Mount Doom. We didn't need to waste like 50 to 75 pages for him to get there. It really, really dragged for me, that part. And then post that, the Scourging of the Shire, while that is an iconic scene and arc in this book, for me it's just like I just didn't care about it at all. And maybe it's because I didn't really connect with a lot of the hobbits as well as perhaps I wanted to, but I just didn't love that part. And again, that part felt long. It was post the climax of the book, and I didn't think that needed to be included. I wish they somehow were able to incorporate that before the climax. It wasn't going to be possible, but it did feel weird the way it was structured and paced. And then, of course, you got the end where Frodo leaves at the Grey Havens, and that part makes me cry, and that part has some of my favorite quotes. That part's great, too. So I think this book is very good, but I can't say it's great, because there are parts of this book that really, really, really drag for me. If we were just judging the Minas Tirith scenes, I think this is a 5-star read. But for me, it's a 3.5. It's very good, but still in the good tier. And then next up, we got The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black, which is the second book in the sub-series The Stolen Heir, which is part of the Holly Black sort of Folk of the Air world. I think this book is also very good. I really like the action in this book. It's very well paced. I love the callbacks to the old characters from the first trilogy that come back with Jude and Cardan. I think they play like a big role, but not too big a role. I don't think it's great, though, just because I think the point of view character, Oak, and it's a single point of view story, is kind of a flat character. I think he's the worst character in the story, and you're stuck in his head the entire time. But other than that, I think this book is very good. But that's enough to knock it out of the great tier, and it's definitely worse than Return of the King. So I would put it in the good tier right there. Okay, next up is The Last Olympian by Percy Jackson. This isn't my favorite Percy Jackson book, but I still think it's great. I think for a series ender, it couldn't have done what it wanted to do any better than it did. And I do like that it is quite different from the rest of the series, because it doesn't really take place in Camp Half-Blood at all, basically, throughout the whole story. So that part actually really worked for me, and there's a lot of great action here, and a lot of great world building, and really good twists at the end. Yeah, for me, this book's great. It's just not my favorite Percy Jackson book, but it's still great. I wouldn't call it as good as Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows. I don't know what this book could have done to be higher than this. I just don't think it was in the cards. I think this book series ended the way it should have ended. I just don't think it could have possibly ended as like a perfect book, if that makes sense. Okay. I don't think this one's controversial, even though this is a big book. Next one up is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. It is the last book of Arc 1 of the Stormlight Archive. I think it's the worst Stormlight Archive book, and I don't even think that's like really debatable. I know some people say Rhythm of Wars. I think Rhythm of Wars is a perfect book. I think this book's the worst book in the series. I think it has some flat humor. I think it's way too long. I think it's paced really poorly. I think some of the character work just felt a little bit off. Now, I say that all to say that it's still a good book, because it has some really iconic scenes in it that really work, and I think the ending for some of the characters was quite good. Other characters it wasn't, and I'm trepidatious going into Arc 2, which you don't want to be, but I still think this book is good. So yeah, I'm still going to put it last in the good tier for now. I don't think it's even very good. I think it's just good. Okay, next up is, and this might be controversial, next up is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. Most people say this is their least favorite of the Sarah J. Maas universe. It is the last book in the Crescent City trilogy, though there will probably be spin-offs. I think this book's great, though. I actually really admire the world building in this a lot. I think the world building in this book in particular is arguably the best world building she's ever done. I would put it ahead of Percy Jackson, but behind Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows. Yeah, there's just a lot here I really, really enjoyed. I loved Lydia's arc in this book. I think it's really, really strong. I love the ending. I think the ending was perfect. Even though I don't really care that much about Bryce and Hunt, but I still thought the ending was exactly what it needed to be. I thought the action here was quite good. I did think there were some strange things that kept it from being like a 5-star perfect read for me. Like, I felt like she changed her mind on where she was going with the Wolves and Ethan in this book. I still like how it ended up, but it did feel strange the way it happened. It felt like she made a complete left turn. That was not what she was going for. The Tharian parts of this book still bored me quite a bit. This book did feel very science fiction-y, which I don't love, but yeah, like I said, the negatives here are far outweighed by the positives. The world building here is just top tier. It's elite. The Avalon scenes is some of the best writing she's ever done. I think the Nesta-Bryce interactions were really, really great. I thought the climax, like I said, was exactly what it should have been. It was very good. Yeah, this book's great. Okay, the next book is the last book of the Witcher series. It's The Lady of the Lake by Andrzej Sapkowski. This book is very, very weird. That's the best way I can describe it. I've talked about it on this channel before. It's just a really, really weird book. All of a sudden, our epic fantasy, our Witcher epic fantasy, turns into like a King Arthur tale, and all these King Arthur characters are coming in, and there's King Arthur like sort of illusions, and the book even ends sort of in like the same way that King Arthur ends, with Geralt and Yennefer going to basically what is Avalon, the fictional city. So strange, very strange. It wasn't what I wanted. It's just okay. I didn't hate my time here. Like I said, it was too weird for me to say I liked it, because there were definitely parts of it I was like, what the hell am I reading? But this book does have some of the best scenes in the series. Series journey in this book is very heartwarming and sad, and all the action that takes place at the castle I think is really, really, really good. So even better than good. It's really, really great. So all that is awesome. But I can't say it's any better than just okay. It's a 2-star read for me. It's just too weird, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted or was expecting when I read it. Okay, then next up is The Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. This is another one that was, again, it's a Robin Hobb book. It's paced really, really slow and not for me. I don't love the way she paces her books. This book answers some questions, and it doesn't answer other questions. I think it does some weird stuff. The one scene where it looks like Fitz is about to die because he's giving himself to Verity so he can make the dragon. And then Verity doesn't actually need him to die. He just needs to change his body for a second so he can get emotion for himself to use to feed the stone dragon. It's never really explained. Fitz thinks he's gonna die, and then the next morning he doesn't die, and he doesn't it's not like he's not happy that he doesn't die or anything. It's never really explained why. Why, because you can infer why, but it's never directly told to us. And I don't think it has to be told to us, but I think it has to be kind of told to Fitz. I don't think Fitz ever realizes it. We're in his point of view, and I would have loved him to come to the realization of why he didn't have to die, and he never really does. So that was strange to me. I also thought the Regal resolution was very unsatisfying. Yeah, but there were definitely parts of this book I loved. I loved all the Verity stuff. I thought Verity's a great character. I love Terrican, or I forget how you say her name, but the Queen. I thought she's a great character, and she's in this book quite a bit. I really liked the Molly reveal in this book. There was a lot about this book that I liked, but there was just a lot that I didn't love. And I also thought this book had some repeat plot elements where Fitz just kept getting kidnapped over and over again. That happened 3 different times, I think. It was really strange. For me, I'm just going to go good, and I'm going to put it behind Wind and Truth. Yeah, this book is as close to just okay as you can get for me. Next up is Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the last book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. I see some people call this their least favorite in the trilogy. For me, this is my favorite book in the trilogy. I really liked this book. I thought the end was very, very strong. I really, really loved the riddle and the resolution. I love the snake arc, even though people, I think, really wanted a lot of action. I didn't really expect a ton of action, so I was happy with what we got. I really love the emotion and the character work in this book quite a bit, and I think this book is paced extremely, extremely well. For me, this is a great book. I would put it ahead of Percy Jackson. I think I would even put it ahead of House of Flame and Shadow. I like it right there. Yeah, just a great book. Okay, and then we got Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is my second favorite of the Bloodsworn trilogy. This book delivered on what it was going for. I did think that there was parts of it that felt just a little bit too long, and almost felt like there was too much action in some parts, which is what people read John Gwynne for. So I can't like complain about that. But for me, that does make it hard for books like his to get like 5 stars, just because he goes into such in-depth like wording in his action, and it's sort of I won't say drags, but it is like longer. Like his action is going to take longer to finish from start to end than other people's are, than other authors are going to do in their works. And for me, that's just not something I'm as interested in. I am interested in it, but I just he doesn't focus on character work as much. If there was like character work with the action, it would be okay, but a lot of times there isn't. And I say all this to say I still think it's a great book, because the resolution here in the end was great. I thought all the characters wrapped up their character arcs really, really well. Elvar was my favorite character. She dies in this book, but I thought it was like almost a heroic death. I really loved the way it was done. It was fitting of her character. Orca obviously steals the show in a lot of different scenes. And this is another one I think is paced pretty good. So I'm going to, this is great. I'm going to put it ahead of The Last Olympian. Okay, the next up is Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. I think this is a 4-star read. I love a lot of this book. So this book really has like 3 different arcs going on at the same time. It's got the Elend Vin arc going on. It's got the Sazed arc going on, and it's got the Spooks arc going on. I think 2 out of 3 of these arcs are perfect. The Sazed arc is perfect, and the Vin Elend arc is perfect, with a great conclusion. This book has one of my favorite battle speeches of all time by Elend, my second after Ride of the Rohirrim. But I think the Spooks arc of this book is just not good. Like, I hated my time there. I would give that arc 1 star, with the other 2 being perfect. But I do think, being that 2 out of the 3 arcs, and I think they're like the 2 out of the 3 dominant arcs of the book are, perfect. This book's still great. I just wish that Spooks arc was a little bit different, or just like not included, because Spooks is probably my least favorite character of what I would consider the main gang, and the fact that he has his own arc in this book is a little strange when he doesn't really feel like a main character. I would put this ahead of Percy Jackson, but behind Fury of the Gods. Okay, and then after that is the Kingdom of the Gods by N.K. Jemisin, which is the 3rd and final book of the Inheritance trilogy. I did not like this book very much. This book was, again, just very, very strange. It focuses on like the child god. I forget his name now off the top of my head. There's this like child god that you meet in the first book, who's like not really a side character, but not a point of view character. And then he's barely in the second book. And then the third book, he is the point of view character. He is the main character of the book, and the plot is driven by him. And he's just mean. He's like a mean child, which I get is exactly what she was going for, but I don't think it's very fun to read when this book is over 600 pages and he is the only point of view character. The side characters were pretty good. The story was weird. It was much weirder than the first 2 stories. And I didn't love this book very much. I thought it was good because I thought the climax was very good, and the resolution at the end where this child god makes his own like universe with these 2 children, I thought was kind of perfect. But getting there was a bit of a chore. For me, this book's just okay. I would put it behind Lady of the Lake for sure. I won't say I hated it. It's not in the I hated it tier, but I didn't love it. This is definitely my least favorite book of the trilogy. In fact, she has since released a novella in this world called The Awakened Kingdom, which draws another child god and this child is like much funnier and has more humor, and it's sort of a different kind of child. I think that child is a much better character to read, to be stuck in their head with, and I love that novella a lot. But this one, not a big fan of this book in general. It's very long. It's the longest of the trilogy. Yeah, could have done without it, to be honest. And this might be the most controversial opinion of the tier list. Next up is A Memory of Light by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan. Yeah, this one's just good for me. I'm going to put it ahead of Wind and Truth, but it's definitely going to be behind Prisoner's Throne. Yeah, I gave this 3 stars. So on a good day, I might give it 3.5, but right now I'm feeling 3. It's good. There's stuff about this book I really, really, really love. I think the majority of the last battle is very good. The Rand Egwene meeting scene is awesome. I loved the epilogue. The epilogue was really good. The way that Rand sort of survives but doesn't survive. It's perfect. I loved the Perrin and Lanfear parts of this book. Those parts were great. I loved the Black Tower part with Androl and Pavera. That part ruled. I really liked basically everything Demon Jordan did. I loved the 4 captains getting corrupted. I thought Egwene was great in this book. I mean, she's my favorite character in the series, so of course I probably thought she was great, but I did think she was great in this book. But there are things about this book that fundamentally bother me. The horn plotline. There's no reason on earth that Fael would ever be the one sent to go get the horn. She cannot create a gateway. She would never, ever, ever, ever be sent to go get the horn. It's such a plot hole. It's not even a plot hole. Like, you have to suspend your disbelief so far for it to ever make sense. And, like, I just couldn't do that. So, yeah, I hated that. Hated that part of the book. It bothered me a lot. Egwene's death. It's just not what Robert Jordan was going to do. Robert Jordan was not going to kill her. Like, it's in his outline, she is not dead. Like, she cannot die. It makes no sense that she's dead. There is no replacement for her. Like, the Aes, every other story ends in, like, a satisfying way, and the Aes Sedai do not have a satisfying end because Brandon Sanderson decided to kill their leader for basically no reason. Just, like, casualty for casualty's sake. Like, it's such a bad decision. Her death scene is awesome and great, and it really works, but she shouldn't have died. It just doesn't work. Like, her dying doesn't make any sense at all. It was a bad decision. Nazrim Tain is supposed to have a heroic moment. Like, Min sees it. Min is never wrong. Min is always right. Her visions cannot be wrong. Min sees Tain have a heroic moment early on in the series. And it just doesn't happen in this book. He doesn't really get one. He's not the one to save the Black Tower, and he's not the one to kill Tain, and he's not the one to kill Demon Dread. He has no heroic moment. He breaks a seal. Who cares? Anybody could have done that. Just not. Those 3 parts alone really, really, really bother me. Enough for me to, like, not think this book is great. Even though there are parts of it that are really, really good. Or really great. But overall, those 3 parts really soured me on the experience of the book. I also just don't love, like, the antagonist in this book. He reads very much like a shard, one of Brandon Sanderson's shards, which I don't think is, like, awesome. So there we go. That's my opinion on it. Okay, the next up is A Dance with Dragons by J.R.R. Martin. I struggle with this one because it's not the final book in the series, and it doesn't have, like, a satisfying conclusion to the series. But the book itself is great. It's not my favorite book in the series. It's not even in my top 3. I think Storm of Swords is objectively the best book in the series. It's one of the best fantasy books, if not the best fantasy book ever written. And then A Game of Thrones and Feast for Crows are both 5-star book reads for me. They're both perfect. You can't ask for better than them. This and Clash for Kings I put on the same scale of they're both great, but they're not perfect. There's just some parts of each of those 2 books that drag a little bit for me, but not too much of those books, and they both have, like, some iconic moments. I love all of the stuff in the North in this book. I think all the stuff in the North in here is really good. I love parts of Daenerys' arc in this book. I love the parts with John Connington. I think are pretty good in this book too. There's a lot of great stuff in this book. They're just parts that drag a little bit. So for me, I'm going to put this in the great tier, and I would put it number 2 for now. Actually, pretty high on the great tier. Actually, this book's really great. I mean, it just is, and it has some really awesome moments with, like, some of the best cliffhangers of all time. There's, like, the book ends on a cliffhanger, and then the epilogue is another cliffhanger. It's kind of crazy. Next up, we got Excalibur by Bernard Cornwell. This is the 3rd book of the Warlord Chronicles. This is my favorite book in that trilogy. I think it's a great book, just front to back. It's a little dry at parts, but I think the action and some of the character work makes up for that dryness. I love the magic of this book because you go through the first 2 books and there's magic, but you question if the magic is real or not. And then in this book, it still leaves you questioning a little bit because it could just be coincidence, but I think it's pretty clearly not. The magic in this book is really, really good. I love the ending with, it's the classic King Arthur. Is he dead or not as he's going off to Avalon? But I like that this book doesn't definitively answer the question. It leaves you kind of guessing if he's going to live or not. And I think it's perfect. Guinevere is my favorite character, just my favorite King Arthur character. She's awesome in this book. Yeah, don't know what else to say. This book is great. I would put it right here, I would say. No, I'll put it behind Hero of Ages, but ahead of Percy Jackson and the Olympian. Right here. Okay, next up is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, which is the third and final book in the Emily Wilde trilogy. This book's perfect for me. Yeah, it's the first book in the perfect tier. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I love this series. 2 and 3 books I gave 5 stars. I love how this book is different from the first one because you spend way more time in the fairy kingdom. It feels more like an epic fantasy than the rest of the series, but it still has that cozy fairy elements. You still got all these characters that we love. Some of the side characters make their appearance. It's got some good twists, some good turns. It's paced really, really well. And a great ending. Just a really, really, really fantastic ending. It ended as it should have ended, and you can't ask for more than that. For me, this is a perfect book. The next up is Half a War by Joe Abercrombie. This is a great book. Great end to the series. I think some of the twists and turns here were great. I think some of the action was a bit of a letdown, but not a total letdown. But it's enough to stop it from getting into the perfect tier. But I really like some of the character work. I do wish we got more Thorn and BAO in this book because I do think they are the best characters in the series, but they're not the point of view characters of this book, so I get why it didn't happen. I did really like the princess as a point of view character, and I loved how Yarvy's scheme sort of unfolded in this book. How it kind of backfired on him in a way, but didn't backfire on him in another way. Yeah, this book's great. I think I would put it behind Percy Jackson and The Last Olympian, but it's still great. It's a 4-star read for me. It's better than just good or very good. It was a really satisfying end. I know this series gets sort of a mixed review online, and people that read Joe Abercrombie a lot don't love the series as much because it's young adult, but I do think it's a very, 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 very good young adult series. It's one of my favorites I've ever read, and I think this is the second best book in the series, but this and Half a World are both like great books. I do think Half a King is not as good, but it's still a good book. The next up is Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is another one that's just a very, very weird book. This entire series is promising like this, the sort of the pantheon to come together, the triumvirate to come together, and the triumvirate comes together and they're basically alive for like 50 pages, maybe even less, and then they're dead. And it just felt very anticlimactic and lame and wasn't what I wanted. Our characters make weird decisions in this book that I don't think they would have made in the other 2 books. The fight with the dragon was let down, and then this book ends with us wanting to have sympathy for this character who at best is a great character, but at worst is like just not a protagonist. Yeah, I didn't love the end of this book, and that's not good when it's the conclusion of the series. So for me, this book's just okay. I didn't hate my time here because there were parts of it that I thought really worked, and it didn't leave me hanging on the edge of my seat for most of the book. So I can't say I hated my time here. I would put it behind Kingdom of Gods, though, just because I like Kingdom of Gods ending, and I didn't really like the Burning God ending. So there we go. Okay, then after that is Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. This is my favorite book in the Shades of Magic series. This is the one that felt most like an epic fantasy. This book actually has some brutal deaths in it that I was not prepared for. Like, I did not see coming at all. And like when they happened, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Didn't think that would happen. The King and Queen arc in this book is some of the best scenes that I think she's ever written. V. Schwab. I've read 4 of her books now. I love those scenes and the way that plays out. Yeah, and I think everybody ends in the exact place they should have ended. So it's just another book that ends really well. And like I said, I think the antagonist here really works. He's classic sort of just like embodiment of evil, which I know some people wanted like a more complex villain. I didn't think it needed it. I thought the story was like epic fantasy as it could be. It was just epic fantasy on top of epic fantasy. It really worked for me. I like this book a lot. I think it's great. I'd put it behind Excalibur though. Right there. It's a good spot for it. Okay, Rule of Wolves. This is the second book and final book in the King of Stars duology, which is the third sub-series in the Grishaverse. I love the ending of this book. I love almost the entirety of this book. I think Zoya is just an awesome character. I think Nikolai has like a great arc in this book. I think even the other character, I forget her name, has like an amazing arc in this book. Yeah, just can't say enough about all the characters in this book. I think this book ends exactly where I should. I thought the action was top tier. I don't think the book needed to bring back the Dark One. So that's my only problem with it, and it's what keeps it out of the perfect tier. Like the Dark One plays a kind of minor but significant role in this book, and I don't think he needed to be in this series at all. I think he should have just stayed dead, and that still bothers me a lot about the series. But that's the only part of this book that I was like, I didn't love. Every other part of this book I thought was perfect. So yeah, I would put this number 2 right behind Deathly Hallows. Next up is Riordan Rising by Le Verdugo, which is the first sub-series in the Grishaverse. Rule of Wolves was also by Le Verdugo. I think this book is very good. Now, I don't think it's like perfect. There are parts of this book that left me scratching my head. Like, why did Alina Starkov lose her powers at the end? And I don't think this book really answers why. Like, she gives an answer, but the answer doesn't add up to what happened in the book. And I've talked about this with other Shadow and Bone fans, and they even couldn't give me a straight answer. Like, it just doesn't really make sense in the text of what happens, of why she lost her powers. So, like, I didn't love that. I think that was very unsatisfying. I also think our main male character is just kind of a flat character here. Like, he's nowhere near as good as some of the other characters in this book. So yeah, for me it's still very good though. The action is great. Some of the twists and turns are really, really strong. I would put this in the great tier. I mean the very good tier. This is a very good book. I put it behind Return of the King, but ahead of Prisoner's Throne right there. It's a very good book, but it's not a great book by any stretch. Okay, and then I don't know why I did this out of order. I did this entire Grishaverse out of order. The next is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, which is the second sub-series in the Grishaverse. This book is near perfect for me. I did think it might have been just a tiny bit too long, and I didn't love that the one character died after they won. I thought it was a good death, and it was shocking and tear-inducing, but I did think it could have happened earlier on in the book, like maybe during the climax. I didn't think it had to happen post-climax. Thought that was kind of a bit of a letdown, but again, this book's still near perfect. The scheming and the character work here is amazing. All the characters end up exactly where they should be. Yeah, you couldn't have asked for more here. The action's really good. Very creative, like, writing, too. I would put this ahead of Rule of Wolves. I would even put this ahead of Deathly Hallows. I think right there, top of great is exactly where it should be. Okay, then next up is Kingdom of Ash, which is the final book in the Throne of Glass series. This book is one of the highest rated books on Goodreads. I know there's some diehard fans that don't love the way this book ended and think that Dorian or Selena or Aelin should have died. I think if you think that, you just didn't read the series. There's just no chance either of them were ever going to die. This book series ended exactly how it should have ended. I thought all the character deaths that happened, and there weren't too many, but there were a few, were perfect and all hit right and all really worked. I love the grim sort of darkness that were over the entire book, because it's a war book, and it should have sort of like a layer of grim and hopelessness over it all, and I thought the book did a really good job of conveying that. I thought every arc in this book really worked. The beginning with the escape was perfect. The end was perfect. Sort of had a very Lord of the Rings influence. You could pretty much tell that off the back. I know some people don't love the God's Bargain, but I think you can disagree with the decision and think it was lame or like it wasn't what you would do, but you can't disagree and say it wasn't what Aelin would do, because I think that was exactly what Aelin would do. It was like totally within character. So I think characters can make mistakes as long as it's in their character. As long as it's in character, and I think it very much fit her character. So yeah, for me that worked. I know some people didn't like the way she lost her power, but I didn't have a problem with that. I thought it really worked. I would put this ahead of Compendium of Lost Tales. This is a perfect book. Okay, then next up is The Other Wind by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is the last book in the Earthsea cycle. I think this book is pretty darn great. I love the way it ended. The way it ended was just perfection, and how we got there was done really well too. I thought a lot of the character work in this was, really, really strong, and I did think the end of this book will bring a tear to your eye. I hated how she left on the dragon, but it's like, is she going to come back? We don't know. Ursula K. Le Guin said she knew, but she wasn't going to tell us. I really enjoyed the end of this book a lot. So, and I thought the way we got there was sort of, the book left you guessing like multiple different times throughout the book of what was going to happen, and I thought the way that she performed the end was just really strong. So yeah, this book's great. I'm going to put it right here. Yeah, just a great book. Okay, and then we got The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. This is another one that's just in the okay for me. I kind of actively don't like a good portion of this book. I think it's paced pretty well, but that's about the only good thing I can really say about the book. Yeah, the book has some really strange stuff. The book character assassinates Susan for some reason. It's like, yeah, she's not welcome here. It's like, that makes no sense. Like, what did she ever do? Like, she was perfectly fine the last time we saw her. And then I didn't love how the end, like, Aslan wasn't Aslan anymore. This book didn't feel like an allegory. It just felt like it was preaching, and I don't think the story was clever enough to cover it up in a way that the other books were. For me, this book kind of felt like a chore to get through at different points, and I did think that the action was kind of a letdown, considering the title of the book is called The Last Battle. We were expecting this big battle, and there is a big battle, but the action in it is just not very fun. So yeah, this book's just okay for me. I didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't love it. It would definitely be at the bottom of the list for me right now. Okay, the next up we got Two Twisted Crowns. I think this book's perfect. I would put it ahead of Compendium of Lost Tales, but Beyond Kingdom of Ash. This book is just a perfect book. I don't know what to say. Like, the end was perfect. Getting to the end was perfect. I thought the new point of view characters that it introduced in Elm just really, really worked. Like, I thought Elm was just a great point of view character. Everything about Elm's point of view was great. I did think that our main character, Raven, I think his name is, was really good in this book too. Like, just really, really strong. I loved the Nightmare. The Nightmare was great. This book could bring a tear to your eye. I love the magic system here. I thought this book set up a really great antagonist. I love the twist of how they're sort of related to the kings of old. And the Rowans were the one that betrayed the kings of old. I loved all the sort of like just fairy tale-esque vibe of some of this book, and I love the setting. She writes settings. Rachel Gillig writes settings better than almost anybody that I can think of. Like, it just very gothic and aesthetically, sort of visually pleasing in your head. Like, you can see the setting, and I think that really works and sets the mood of the story in a good way. I am losing my voice. Okay, then last up is Wings and Ruin. This book's just good for me. Like, it's actually very good for me, but it doesn't hit great. There's just some things about this book that irk me. I think there's a bunch of great scenes here, but the threads tying together the great scenes don't really work. But yeah, there are, and this is the third book in the Ektar series. It's not actually the last book, but it is the last book in the sort of sub-series of the Fair arc of the series. Yeah, this book's very good. It's just not, I wouldn't call it, great. I think I'd put it ahead of Wings of Ruin and Horizon. Right there, I think is a good spot for it. Okay, and that is my last book in a series tier list. I ranked 27 different books here. As you can see, this is quite different than my first tier list. The first tier list was more like a bell, where the good books were really out. There were more good books than there were great and perfect books. But here, with the last book in a series, as you can see, I tend to think a lot of the books hit more in the great tier in the last book in the series. And that's partially because I really only continue a series to the end if I kind of love the series. So that does make sense, or even just like the series. So that makes sense that a lot of these books hit harder for me. I also think, that these books on their own are just great. Just a lot of these books. So that's my opinion. And that's all for now.